Welcome to The Bitch in My Brain, the personal growth podcast where we address negative self-talk, build confidence, own our self-worth, and have a good-ass time doing it. Hosted by me, Josie Woods, life coach, entrepreneur, and light chaser. Get ready to embrace self-love and start living in your light. Now let's get after it. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Bitch in My Brain podcast. My name is Josie. It is a pleasure to be with you this week. I wanted to give you guys a little kind of life update. I feel like there's been a lot of things moving in my life, a lot of kind of fun things happening, as well as some not fun things, but, we'll get into all that. Really, where it started, kind of, I guess, or where we'll start, is about, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I ended up having a seizure. I had gone about a year being seizure-free. So the last seizure I had was in January 2025. So yeah, about a year ago. And it's been really interesting comparing this seizure to the one in January. And it's kind of a little bittersweet is a good way to put it. Obviously, I would prefer not to be having seizures, but I also know that I'm diagnosed with epilepsy. So no matter what, seizures are going to be a part of my life. And this one was very random. Well, sort of random. I look back now and I had missed my meds on Friday morning and Friday night. And then Saturday morning, I was functioning, but I was, what is it called? Lights are on, no one's home sort of thing. So I can't really remember what happened Saturday morning once I woke up. But I ended up having one in the shower, actually. Luckily, Sam, who I need to come up with a good name, like my seizure savior, who seems to always be there when I have them. I don't think it's a bad luck thing. I think it's a good luck thing for me. But I guess, I was in the shower, we were talking, and then kind of went silent, and he heard kind of a stumble, and then, was asking like, "Hey, Joes," and then when he heard that I didn't respond is when he came into the bathroom, saw that I was having one, and kept my head from hitting the tile. For that I'm very grateful. I would say that the past seizure I had, so the one in January, I would say that one hit me on a deep spiritual level. It was very emotional as far as the aftermath. I remember just feeling really heavy and kind of sad. And I recorded an episode about it. It's way back at the beginning if you want to listen. But this one, I had a very different aftermath. This one was more kind of mental and physical. When I was having seizures in high school and college, I could bounce back the next day. I'm like, just let me sleep, let me kind of puke because I always get a migraine. And then, I'm back on my bullshit. Well, as I've gotten older, they hit a little bit different. And so, this one really took it out of me. Physically, I basically was just pretty much sleeping for 5 days straight. And normally I would have shamed myself for that. I would have been like, look, your seizure was 2 days ago. Get over it. Go to yoga. You can't be napping. You need to be doing this. And what I really focused on this time was whatever my brain or body needed, that's what I was going to do. And so, if I needed to take 3 naps throughout the day, I was going to take 3 naps throughout the day. So I really just wanted to honor myself and take care of myself because I've been meeting with one of my coaches. She also does astrology. So I'm in my Saturn return, getting a little woo-woo. And one of the things that I really need to
be aware of during this time is my health. And when she told me that, I was like, okay, maybe I need to, chill out on nicotine or, smoke it. Like I was like, it's got to be, something simple, maybe less sugar. And I wasn't even thinking it was going to be, um, you know, could be tied to my epilepsy. And then sure enough, a few days later, I have one. And so it really also kind of reminded me that, yeah, I have epilepsy. It's not going away. And the way that I can avoid having seizures is by taking care of myself, is by taking those naps, even if I don't feel like, a seizure's coming on, which is usually when they do. But just honoring what my body needs in the moment, what's in my best interest. And that really comes from structure. I am very inconsistent with my meds. I'll call myself out. I, I usually miss the ones at night. And the reason why is I love to fall asleep on the couch. It is one of my favorite things ever. And then Sam comes upstairs, wakes me up, then I go upstairs. The problem is a lot of the times we'll both fall asleep on the couch and then we wake up at like 3 a.m. We have to wash our face, brush our teeth, and then that's usually when I'll take my meds at night. But since it's 3 a.m., I'm like, well, I'm going to wake up in a few hours, so I'll take my meds then. And that's really what happened on Friday or that Friday before I had the seizure on Saturday, was missed my meds in the morning and then missed them at night and then the next morning, yada, yada, yada. So what I knew was I needed that structure back. So this week I really focused on, if I feel like I'm going to fall asleep on the couch, I walk upstairs and I take my meds. And, whether or not I'm ready for bed, maybe I'm not washing my face or brushing my teeth yet, but I know for a fact that I have done what I needed to do to make sure that I'm healthy, that I don't have another seizure. So although, it's not fun to have a seizure, as I'm feeling more rested and, healed from it, it's very interesting to look back on and see some of the, good things that came out of it. Some of the kind of lessons I've learned of, you got to be an adult, take responsibility, take your meds. So, it boils down to something really simple. And then my next big life update is I decided to open up my marketing business again. Woo Marketing, she is back. And I really didn't predict this. You ask my previous self back in June or, even July, if you asked if I would start it back up, I'd be like, fuck no way am I, going back into that. I still was, struggling as far as the burnout and the motivation. And, I had the ick for the industry. I had the ick for the industry. But really, I was just kind of going with the flow at that time in my life when I wasn't wanting to start it back up. And it really made me, have to really embody the idea that the universe has my back and that I will, end up where I need to be. Whatever is, on my path is meant to be, all of those things. And I really was in that space for the past year of just like, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And the reason why I believe that the universe has my back on such a deep level is I have all of this proof and evidence based on my past life. Hindsight's 2020. I look back and I'm like, yep, there was a reason why that happened. Yep, there was a reason why that happened. And as I have been kind of exploring the path and journey I've taken this past year, everything that I have asked for from the universe, I have been given. And it kind of goes into manifestation in some aspects, but there's also this element of, when we're manifesting, we're co-creating with the universe. And so we are asking for what we want. And a lot of people get hung up on the specifics. So if I want something, I'm like, I want that new car, and it's got to be this and it's got to be that. And we're very specific, which isn't a bad thing because some of us, we want this model because, XYZ, whatever. But for me, what I've realized is manifesting is more about the feeling. And so when I look back at this past year, especially around the chili stand, I, was asking the universe, I'm like, okay, I need to get a little financially stable. I want, I got my student loans, as you guys hear almost every episode. And what I would, tell my coaches or, tell the universe as I'm like, I was so burnt out by marketing that I just want a simple job. I just want a job that I can show up for, work, and leave. And, it just needs to be calm and simple. And what I would say is like, I just need to go get a job at Starbucks, like Starbucks, show up, leave, that sounds like the ideal job. Little did I know that I wasn't going to be manifesting a job at Starbucks. I was manifesting a job at the chili stand. And everything that I was wanting from that job at Starbucks, I got through the chili stand and the tree stand. And like I said, I would not have guessed that I would be, end up working for minimum wage in that sort of way. But it kind of leads into the next thing where, when we co-create with the universe, they'll or she'll provide, provide that for you. And if you don't get that, it's something better. And so there was something better that came out of me working at the chili stand for this family than if I would have gone and got a job at Starbucks. And so I look back and I'm like, okay, I was meant to take that path and I got what I wanted. And so kind of the next thing that, I started thinking about once the chili stand wrapped up is, okay, what's next? We're going with the flow, what's going to happen? And I immediately got offered a job to continue working. And it was tough for me because when they asked, the moment they asked, I had like a knee-jerk reaction to say yes. I was like, oh, yes, okay, I have a job, I have a plan. The universe is giving me this opportunity. However, there was a huge part of me that knew that job was not right for me, that I knew I would not be happy. It would be emotionally exhausting. And I had already gone through all of those feelings when I stopped my marketing business. And so I knew that the boundary of, I won't choose money over happiness. This was a really big part of, what this job was going to be. And I was still kind of battling my logic versus my intuition. And so, I was talking to the people close to me about it and just saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And all of the reactions were the same. And it was, I don't think you should do it. I don't think you should do it. And I knew that was the answer. I knew from my intuition that it didn't feel good. The idea when I would picture myself, working and what I'd be doing, my body was just like, ugh. I knew it was the wrong decision. And so even though it might have provided a little bit of, financial security, I knew I couldn't take that job. And so as I'm thinking about this, you know, I used to think that every job I got, every client I got was an opportunity. And so hence why I was a yes man. And I really think that what I've learned after saying no to this job was it wasn't an opportunity, it was a test. It was to test whether or not I would uphold that boundary of not choosing money over happiness. So that was a really big aha and shifted how I'm going to start looking at these opportunities that come and use my discernment to say, is this an opportunity for me to go in the direction of alignment, or is this a test on whether or not I will say no to something that doesn't serve me? And I'm so grateful for that learning lesson. And the momentum and trusting my intuition ultimately led me to becoming, open to starting my marketing business again. And the next thing you know, within a few days, I had 2 marketing clients that were referred to me, that I didn't have to do any work to go out and pursue. All I said was, you know what, I'm open to starting this back up. I'm going to do it in my way, in a way that feels aligned, and I'm not stuck in perfectionism or anything like that. I'm just enjoying what it's like to be in marketing again, but not have my self-worth tied into it, or, the value that I provide. And that's very much what was happening when I was working in the self-help industry. Is a lot of the things and the marketing I was working on externally, I was also working on internally. So a lot of, the newsletters, the social, the web pages, everything I was writing copy for, I was very connected to. It was very much a reflection of me and my thoughts. And so now that I have this separation, I am very grateful that now I can continue this inner work from a kind of special, sacred place. And it's separate from my professional life. And who knows, if I get back into the self-help industry, I would love that. That I would love to, I'm so passionate about it that it makes sense. However, I'm trusting my intuition that whatever's meant for me will come to me. And right now, if it has nothing to do with the self-help industry, that's fine, because it's in alignment with what I want. It's simple, it's easy, and it's money. You know what I mean? And so whatever's meant to be in my future, it will be. If it's not, working in the self-help industry, it's going to be something better. And for that, I'm excited and grateful. And I really encourage all of you to take a pulse on what your kind of life looks like right now. Maybe areas of opportunity that come up, or areas where, you look back and you're like, okay, maybe that was a test. Okay, if we run into this again, now we have the awareness to ask us that question, so that we're able to move in the direction that we want to, and ultimately just be like happy and peaceful in our lives. That's like the biggest mission for me, is to just, even if it's one person, to just help them move in the direction to where they wake up and, their shoulders aren't up here, and they're stress-free, and they're enjoying their coffee, not thinking, okay, I got to chug this and go, sit at my computer for 12 hours. That's not happiness. Maybe if you're starting a business, entrepreneur, and that lights you up, that makes sense. But we should be pursuing what makes us happy, making the choices that are in alignment with what makes us happy. And when we do that, that's when we co-create with the universe. And next thing you know, you're exactly where you want to be. It may not be what you thought it was, but it's where you're meant to be. And, that's something to be excited and grateful about. And it also makes life a little bit, more fun, because you're like, okay, shit's going down right now. There might be a reason for it. What's in my control? Let's see where it leads us. So that's my little life update, what's been going on. And, after my seizure, I'm feeling very refreshed, very inspired. I have been very much in my woo-woo this past week, just, talking to my guides, setting intentions, pulling oracles, and that's what you got to do. If, after something like this, a seizure is very ungrounding, I can take advantage of the ways I know how to ground myself. And that's, my connection with the universe. Other people have, different ways of grounding. But yeah, the woo-woo is, it feels good. And the connection with, the universe, it's something that you'll never regret. So not to just pitch my my spiritual beliefs, believe what you want, but that's where I'm coming from. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this episode spoke to you, and I can't wait to continue to share so much more. If you're feeling called, please subscribe and leave a review so together we can reach even more women who deserve to live their best life. And you can follow me on social at The Bitch in My Brain as I share my journey and life in real time. I can't wait to see you bitches next week. Take care.